Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and I wanted to do a quick video on a difference between the Tandem OLED that I looked at on the Yoga Pro 9i. This is, of course, the Aura edition for 2025, and the standard OLED. So I actually bought the Tandem OLED, as you know, from Best Buy, and I'll leave links for everything in the description below. But Lenovo sent over a different variant with the standard OLED, which is a 2.8K resolution. And the one I had with the Tandem OLED is a 3.2K. Both 120 hertz, both have the same Core Ultra 9 285H Arrow Lake H processor from Intel. So the difference is going to be in not only in the displays, but in the GPU. So I had the RTX 5060 in that Tandem OLED, whereas the one that Lenovo sent over has the RTX 5050, the entry-level model. It's about a $250 or $200 difference between the standard OLED with the 5050 and the Tandem OLED with the 5060 at Best Buy. But of course, if you want the 5070, head on over to Lenovo's website. They sell it there, and that will give you the most performance out of the three. But I have the two, right? So we're going to take a look at today the difference between the standard OLED, the Tandem OLED, and the differences between the GPUs of the ones I have. But of course, keep in mind that 5070 is also an option on the top of the line with the Yoga Pro 9i. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is the Yoga Pro 9i, and I wanted to see the difference between the Tandem OLED and the standard OLED coming up. All right, let's start off with the most obvious thing, the displays. And the Tandem OLED is the one I looked at first, and I was so excited about it as I got it into the studio. I'll leave links for my videos on it in the description below. But what makes it pretty special is how bright it gets, how sharp it is, and how color accurate it is as far as the coverage of the color gamut. It is spot on. So brightness, we're looking at 1,000 nits standard dynamic range, actually specifically 966, but let's round it up, 1,000 nits. And as far as HDR, can peak as high as 1,600 nits. So what does that mean? Well, in real world usage, you're going to be able to use this both indoor and outdoors. No real issue there. Of course, it is a glossy display, but still, because it gets so bright, that reduces the issue in terms of visibility outdoors. I was able to use this outdoors here in Las Vegas. As you know, it's hot, sunny, and it was a great test case scenario. Now, standard OLED, which is the one I have right here, you can see it here. This one can peak as bright as 1,100 nits HDR, but standard, you're looking at about 500 nits in SDR. So we're looking at a good screen here. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's excellent, just like you would, of course, with the Tandem OLED, just not as bright. But I would say this is an excellent display, especially if you want to save a couple of $100s or so, because this one comes in cheaper than the Tandem OLED. Now, that's the displays. Again, I'll leave a link to my Tandem OLED review, and I'm showing you on the screen the metrics of this one, of course. And this one, of course, has some excellent coverage of the color gamut. It is color accurate. So if you're going to do content creation in Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing in Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, this certainly can get the job done. It does a great job here. So I'm very happy with the standard OLED. Of course, with any OLED, even the Tandem OLED to an extent, you do have to worry about a few different things like screen burn-in. If you leave a static image long enough on the screen, it may burn in, but that's rare. I haven't seen it really. And then, of course, PWM, although they did a really good job here. So you really have to go to a very low brightness to even see it. So I think this was a really good job here done in terms of reducing not only the chances of screen burn-in, but of course with PWM and stuff like that. So take it for what it's worth. But again, these are both great displays. Now the benefit, like I said, of the Tandem OLED, it's a little bit more efficient in some ways, but because it gets so bright, we're going to have some issues with battery life. Maybe it just depends on what we're doing. So let's talk about battery life as the next thing here, as a difference between the two. So I ran the same test. I ran the PC Mark 10 Modern Office test, which is a mixed use test, of course. I ran it on both of them, and I saw about a 3-hour difference between the two. I got 3 hours better on the standard OLED. Not too much of a surprise there. And then when I ran the video playback test, I got about a 2-hour difference. So not a huge difference, but there is a difference nonetheless between the two. So it just depends pretty much what you're doing with these laptops, and that will pretty much dictate how battery life is going to go. As I ran the test, I kept them both at 120 hertz. I kept them both at about 200 nits of screen brightness. So just so you know, that's how I ran the test as a standard test. And they were both in the standard or optimized mode or whatever they call it. And They're not in the performance mode when I ran the test. So just keep that in mind. So if you play with some of the settings, if you play with the brightness and stuff, if you lower the screen refresh rate down to 60 hertz, you probably can eke out a little bit more battery life on either one of these. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these are both running the same Intel Core Ultra 9 processor, the 285H. That, of course, is known as Arrow Lake. And I would say performance-wise, single-core, multi-core, it's the same. We don't really need to go over that. I've reviewed it extensively in my Tandem OLED review, so I'll leave a link, of course, in the description below. That being said, there is a difference between the GPUs. So the one that Lenovo sent over with the standard OLED, the 2.8K, we're looking at an RTX 5050 fed 100 watts of power. Whereas on the Tandem OLED, that's 5060 with 100 watts of power. But to be honest with you, I didn't see a huge difference between the two when I ran the TimeSpy, of course, test, as well as the Firestrike and Wildlife Extreme scores. You see here that it really didn't make that much of a difference, although you do better on the 5060, and of course, expect to do better on the 5070. Unfortunately, I don't have the 5070 here, but do expect it. We've reviewed it in the past as far as the RTX 5070 laptop GPU, so expect to do a little bit better when it comes to gaming. But I didn't see a huge difference between the 5050 and the 5060. Now, finally, let's get to the price here. Of course, this one comes in at around $2199.99 at Best Buy. The Tandem OLED I'm talking about, and the one I have here, which is the RTX 5050 model with the standard OLED, comes in at $1,950. So there is a $250 difference between the two. And you have to ask yourself, well, is it worth it to go from the standard OLED to the Tandem OLED, and is it worth it going from the 5050 to the 5060? So that's just a matter of a subjective opinion here, and whether or not you should. That really depends on what you do with the laptop. My opinion is the Tandem OLED is on another stratosphere. I think it does separate itself from everything else, and I think it is bar none the best display on the market right now. That could change as we're going to see other Tandem OLEDs as they roll out from different brands, but I would say so far as we're talking here, August 25th, 2025, the Tandem OLED is something special, and to me, yes, I think it is worth the extra $250 or so that you're going to pay to get it. That being said, if you do go with the one for $1,950 standard OLED RTX 5050, I think that one is definitely a good one in its own right. These are not cheap laptops, but I think what they're doing here is something pretty unique and special in the fact that they're combining a good CPU with GPU. Of course, it's not gaming laptops. These are really not that. These are more for creative work. This is more for general purpose work, but need that extra graphics horsepower, which of course you can game on these on your downtime, just play with some of the settings, but definitely capable, right? But just understand where this is targeted towards and who it's targeted towards, and then you'll get a really good idea of who this is for, right? So that's the difference between the Tandem OLED and the standard OLED, and the difference between the RTX 5050 and the 5060. Otherwise, everything else is the same. The ports are the same. The keyboard's the same. The touchpad's the same. It's the same laptop, right? It's got the same 84 watt-hour battery. So you saw the difference between the battery life. So that's what the difference is. I know there's been a lot of confusion. I think a lot of people wanted to know, well, what are the differences between the two? And there you have it. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, one other thing before we go here, I know there's been some talk about the 170 watt power adapter that's included in the box may not be enough for some people if you're running really demanding graphics tasks and really demanding CPU tasks as well. I started to see a little bit of battery drain when you do really put it under heavy load. It was easily remedied. I have another power supply here from Lenovo that I have lying around, and I think I used 300 watts or 330 from my Lenovo Legion laptop, the Legion Pro 7i. So I use that. So it's easily fixed if you have an issue. And again, it's in those rare circumstances where you're really pushing it to its limit. You might see a battery drain where the 170 watts is not enough. So would I like to see them put a more beefier, a more viable choice in the box? Absolutely. They should probably go up to a higher wattage. That being said, it's not the end of the world. You're just going to just get another one. They're not expensive, and you can use that as the charger. So just keep that in mind. And it uses the proprietary connection from Lenovo that we're all familiar with. But let me know if you have this, you have any battery drain with the 170 watt power charger in the box. Let me know. Again, the way to fix it, just get a more powerful power supply from Lenovo or some third party, I guess. But keep in mind, it is that proprietary port. But I will say, to wrap this all up, I do love this laptop here for 2025, this Gen 10 Aura edition of this. And I would say that it's in the running for, or one of the laptops for laptop of the year in this category, because it really does provide a great build quality, gives you great display options, some different GPU options, and of course, having the Arrow Lake processor, I think, is a great combination here. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. And if you're a casual viewer of my content, why not hit that subscribe button? It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps support the channel as we're making our big push for 300,000 subscribers by the end of the year. You're gonna buy something like the Yoga Pro 9i. I have links for everything in the description below. Yes, they are affiliate links. No, I don't get a huge commission, a small commission that helps support the channel, helps keep the lights on here in the studio. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.